Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 6th of April and we are going to deal with two very important topics which are in news. The first is the repo rate has been kept unchanged by the RBI in this time's monetary policy review. The monetary policy is a policy which is designed by the Reserve Bank of India, which aims to contain inflation in the country. Inflation which is directly linked with the amount of money in circulation that is causing inflation is regulated by the RBI. The inflation limits which has been set by RBI is 2 to 6% and inflation was well within the limits. However, RBI has stated that in the times to come, in cases of reduced agricultural output where inflation can increase, it will be very much closely looking towards this and taking requisite steps proactively. Next is green hydrogen. So Ministry of Renewable Energy has basically rolled out a scheme for all those players who want to invest in the green hydrogen sector. Green hydrogen is considered to be a game changer in the energy domain. India has also launched the National Green Hydrogen Mission, which aims to generate green hydrogen for India and aims to make India a green hydrogen hub for the world. So through this scheme, government will be providing viability gap funding to those companies who want to invest in this sector. This is a clean source of fuel and this is also going to reduce India's import dependence, which is huge in itself, on the fossil-based fuels. So let us see how things will work out for India in this domain. So let's get started with the first topic, that is repo rate unchanged. Now a few days ago when we were covering that topic, 90 years of RBI, we discussed the entire mechanism of repo rate. So I'm not going to discuss the entire mechanism of repo rate today, but yes, briefly I would say that if the scheduled commercial banks, they want to take loan from the RBI, Reserve Bank of India. RBI issues them loans at a particular rate of interest and that rate of interest is called as repo. Now in the monetary policy reviews, the RBI can increase or decrease this repo rate. If RBI feels that there is inflation in the economy, inflation is obviously due to increased money supply, RBI will increase the repo rate. Means the borrowing for the scheduled commercial banks from RBI will become expensive. Scheduled commercial banks will be looking for other avenues of picking up money or picking up funding, and one such avenue is from the people. So it will make the investment instruments for the people more attractive. This will reduce the money in supply in the economy and thereby reduce inflation. This is the logic behind that, increasing or decreasing the repo rate. So this time when the RBI did its monetary policy review, it does it almost every quarter. So it kept the policy rate or the repo rate unchanged. It can keep it unchanged also if it feels that the situation is normal. The normal situation is that inflation is there within this bracket, 2 to 6%. Then RBI can keep the repo rates unchanged also, and presently the repo rate is 6.5%. So it has been at this point 6.5% from many months now. In 2022 it was 4%, and in 2022 when we started experiencing inflationary pressures, this was increased to 6.5%, and from since then it has remained at this level the entire 2023 at 6.5, now also to 6.5. So this is basically there, and both the decisions were taken in a majority 5-1 voting. So that day we also covered that Monetary Policy Committee is a 6-member committee where decisions are taken by majority. Now since it is a 6-member committee, there can be a possibility of 3:3 also. In that case, the RBI governor has the casting vote, but this time it was 5-1 voting. 5 people were in favor of keeping this repo rate unchanged. 1 was in favor of reducing the repo rate to enhance economic activity or to enhance the money supply in the economy. So this was the position. Now why RBI has kept the policy rates unchanged? This is what we need to understand in, I would say, technicalities, and from here we will get or we will further get clarity on this particular topic. There were three major reasons why this policy rate or the repo rate was unchanged. First is the overall economic outlook remains upbeat despite some challenges in specific sectors. Specific sectors like agriculture and all, where agricultural productivity is going to be impacted because of the intense heat waves or less rainfall in an El Nino year. But yes, overall economic activity, the mood is upbeat as of now. While there has been broad-based moderation in inflation. Broad-based moderation means overall the inflationary pressures or inflation rate has moderated. Higher food inflation keeps headline numbers elevated. So higher food inflation is there, and it is expected to be further higher in the times to come. However, benign core inflation. Now there are two words used over here. One is core inflation and one is headline inflation. We need to understand this, and how we can understand this? We can understand this by going on the blackboard, or sorry, on the red board. So let's suppose this circle is there, and in this circle, overall products or commodities, overall commodities and services which are into question, means we have to assess the price rise of these commodities, is there. This is called as headline inflation. This will include food, fuel, housing, education, healthcare facilities, everything. We will see that overall how much they are getting expensive. If they are getting expensive, so inflation is there. If they are not getting expensive, if the prices are falling down, then we will say that disinflation is there. So this is basically there. But there is a core inside this headline inflation. And that core is generally considered to be stable. Means prices of those commodities or services are stable relatively. And we cannot keep food and fuel over here, because price fluctuations in these two commodities is immense. That is why they are not part of core group. Core is relatively stable. So when we say that core inflation, the core inflation means non-food, non-fuel. Okay. So it is like this, because price volatility of food and fuel is immense. That is why they are not kept as part of core. So there has been broad-based moderation. Broad-based moderation means inflationary pressure has been moderated, has come down or has slowed down. Higher food inflation keeps headline numbers elevated. The food inflation is high, so overall inflation numbers we see at somewhere around 5. However, benign core inflation means the core, the products which are there in the core, their inflation is minimal, it is benign, will comfort RBI as strong growth and mainly remained non-inflationary. Now 2 years ago, this is what the RBI governor has said, and we have to interpret this anecdote properly. 2 years ago, around this time, when CPI inflation had peaked at 7.8% in April 2022, the elephant in the room was inflation, because it was due to the rising, I would say, prices. The elephant has now gone out for a walk and appears to be returning to the forest. We would like the elephant to return to the forest and remain there on a durable basis. Means we would want, that elephant to remain, that elephant is inflation, to remain in the forest, means to remain away from our economy. And in a durable way, we want it. Now, what are inflation rates in India? According to the CareEdge ratings, headline inflation eased significantly from 5.7 in December to 5.1 in January and February. So headline is overall inflation. The fall in overall inflationary pressure over the past couple of months has been broad-based, with core inflation consistently trending downward, remaining below the 4% threshold for 3 consecutive months. So core inflation is below 4%. However, food and beverages inflation remain elevated. 7.8% increase in February, led by price pressures in vegetables. Vegetables cost increased by 30.3%, pulses 18.9%, spices 13.5%, and this is further expected to increase in an El Nino year where agricultural productivity will be a big question because of scanty rainfall. Predictions for the future: RBI has indicated that headline inflation will moderate in the coming months, aided by a favorable base effect lasting until July 2024. The arrival of Rabi harvest in the market. Rabi means the crops which are sown in the winter months. Now they will start coming in the market along with expectations of a normal monsoon next year. Will also elevate pressure on food prices. Not this year a normal monsoon will be there. Normal monsoon is expected next year. RBI will thus be inclined to adopt a cautious approach, preferring to assess the evolving risks associated with food inflation. As guided by the March Monetary Policy Bulletin, monetary policy will remain risk minimalization mode. What is this risk minimalization mode? Means if the RBI is going for tackling inflation too much, the economic activities reduce. So there is this balance maintained कि inflation is also controlled and economic activity is also there. So that kind of situation is called as risk minimalization or risk minimization mode. So this is what the predictions for future is, and clearly the governor has said that if needed we will be taking proactive stance for tackling inflation in the future by assessing all the factors. Now comes green hydrogen. Now to understand green hydrogen, first we need to understand hydrogen, and for understanding hydrogen we should understand one thing very clearly, that hydrogen is a source energy. What kind of energy? Heat. Now heat is very much important. You drive your vehicles, in the car, in the scooty, any vehicle, the petrol gets into, or petrol or diesel gets into the engine, it gets burnt over there, it gets compressed, heat is generated, and that heat generates power. That generation of heat is very much important. Coal, when it is burnt, heat is generated. That heat evaporates water into steam. Steam falls on the turbine, electricity is generated. Again, heat comes into picture. Now what if we start obtaining this heat from hydrogen? Can we do that? Yes, we can do that. We can combust hydrogen and we can generate heat. More heat than coal or more heat than petrol or diesel. The calorific value of hydrogen is obviously more than them. And guess what? In this process, when hydrogen is undergoing combustion, the byproduct is H2O. Means no emissions will be there. So using hydrogen as a source of energy is a win-win situation. It is a clean source of energy. We don't need to mine it. We can get it from water. Then when we burn it, we don't get any emissions. Emissions are H2O. But coming back to this, I said that we get hydrogen from water. Actually, there is a process called as electrolysis. We do this process and we extract hydrogen from water. So what is it? We will see, and we'll go back to this board as of now. Now why we are studying this? Because Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has launched a scheme and has allocated 496 crore rupees until 2025-26 to support pilot projects that either test the viability of green hydrogen as a vehicle fuel or develop secure supporting infrastructure such as refueling stations and all of hydrogen. A big Indian commercial vehicle manufacturers such as Tata Motors, Volvo, Ashok Leyland and all are also investing in their respective research and development centers how to create vehicles that will run on hydrogen as a fuel. Now if successfully done, we will eliminate the need of petrol or diesel which we are importing right now. We will start making hydrogen in the country, and if we are there early in this race, we can start exporting hydrogen also. We can make India as a hub of green hydrogen or hydrogen basically. Now Indian energy companies too are trying to scale up production of green hydrogen and bring down costs to make it affordable enough to compete with other fuels. So this is what we are trying. But on the red board we saw about hydrogen, how by electrolysis we can obtain it. But here we are reading about green hydrogen. So what is green hydrogen? We need to understand that. So by now we know that hydrogen is produced from a process called as electrolysis. Electrolysis is basically this process. You take water in an electrolyzer and you pass current through this. This is basically cathode, this is anode. Over here, when you pass current, the hydrogen atoms are collected over here, and basically the hydroxy atoms or oxygen atoms are collected over here, and we can extract the hydrogen atoms. This process is called as electrolysis. Now, we need electricity to do electrolysis because we will be passing electricity only, then only electrolysis will happen. Where is this electricity coming from? Is it being generated by burning natural gas or coal, or is it renewable energy? If this electricity which is coming for electrolysis for doing this process is coming from renewable energy sources, then the hydrogen generated over here will be called as green hydrogen. It is as simple as that. If it is coming from natural gas or I would say coal, then it will be called as grey hydrogen. Natural gas, grey hydrogen; coal, black hydrogen. Some experts categorize coal under grey only. So it is like this. So what is green hydrogen? Roughly you got to know about it. Green hydrogen is produced by renewable energy because we use this renewable energy for that process called as electrolysis. Through electrolysis of water, electrolyzer technology is central to the green hydrogen production process because this is basically where green hydrogen will be there. Alkaline polymer electrolyte membrane (PEM) and solid oxide electrolyzers are commercially available technologies for green hydrogen production. Alkaline electrolyzers operate via transport of hydroxide ions (OH ions) through the electrolyte from the cathode to the anode, with hydrogen being generated on the cathode side, and then we collect hydrogen which is generated on the cathode side and can use it as a source of fuel. The benefits of green hydrogen. What are the benefits of green hydrogen? Green hydrogen promises significant reductions of emissions because when hydrogen is burnt, the emission will be H2O. Yes, the source is also H2O, the emission is also H2O. So it is basically relatively clean emissions are there. Okay. Curbing pollution. Pollution gets curbed, and obviously when emissions are not there, pollutions are curbed. A business opportunity it is to become a global hub for production and export of green hydrogen. Because see, this hydrogen is not dependent upon geography or I would say geological findings like petroleum or coal is. It can be generated by anyone, anywhere. So India, if it leaps onto this opportunity at an early time, can become a hub of green hydrogen manufacturing, and it can be a business opportunity for India. And for that purpose, India has launched this National Green Hydrogen Mission. Likely outcome by 2030 from this mission is that production capacity of at least 5 million metric tons per annum we have to achieve. Cumulative reduction in fossil fuel imports over 1 lakh crore. If we will be able to develop this technology or develop green hydrogen, and we'll be having vehicles running on green hydrogen, then our oil imports significantly will be reduced. Creation of 6 lakh jobs will be there. Renewable energy capacity addition of 125 gigawatts will be there because this renewable energy will be needed to do the electrolysis. Interventions, financial incentive targeting domestic manufacturing of electrolyzers and production of green hydrogen. This is what the government has done through this particular scheme. Regions capable of supporting large scale production and or utilization of hydrogen to be developed as green hydrogen hubs. This is what is going to be done in the future. And policy framework, development of an enabling policy framework to support establishment of green hydrogen ecosystem. Robust standards and regulation framework has to be there. Public-private partnership has to be promoted, and skill development program has to be enabled and for the people who will be employed in this particular sector. See, it might be seeming very interesting and it might be seeming very easy also, but you should know one thing very clearly, that there are risks attached with this green hydrogen, and we need to understand those risks also. We will see those risks when they come, but yes, as of now in this slide we can see types of hydrogen. We know green hydrogen, where we are doing this electrolysis by using green electricity or renewable energy. In blue hydrogen, basically it is there in the oceans. Natural gas is used, but yes, the elements from the water are used to produce hydrogen. Here, grey hydrogen, natural gas is used to do that electrolysis, to provide that electricity for electrolysis, and which generates this hydrogen. Okay. So these are the 3 types of hydrogens largely which you should know. Concerns, as I told you, transportation and storage is the major concern of hydrogen, because hydrogen is highly combustible and a small amount of hydrogen can cause huge amount of damages. Presently, the cost is high of renewable energy generation, and hence the green hydrogen which is produced, that is also of high cost. High energy consumption. The production of green hydrogen particular requires more energy than other fuels. Also, availability of renewable energy is not at par demand. So we need to increase the renewable energy generation capacity. That is why National Green Hydrogen Mission's one of the, I would say, likely outcomes is 125 gigawatt addition in renewable energy. And safety issues are there because handling it is not so easy. So we need to create such kind of infrastructure which can prevent leakages or these kind of accidents. Now, coming back to the scheme which has been launched by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, objectives of the scheme: validation of technical feasibility and performance of green hydrogen as a transportation fuel. So we want to use it in the transportation sector. Evaluation of economic viability of green hydrogen powered vehicles and demonstration of safe operation of hydrogen powered vehicles and refueling stations. So this is basically of major concern, and this is the objective of this particular scheme, for which the government has outlaid around 500 crore rupees. How will it be implemented? Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways will appoint a scheme implementation agency that will invite proposals for pilot projects. The selected company or consortium will be the project's executing agency. Now, once this is there with this scheme implementation agency, once it is approved, it will go to the project appraisal committee, and project appraisal committee, after assessing the demands of these companies, will send it to Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and the ministry will approve viability gap funding, VGF, for the project. VGF means, let's suppose for the project to be viable, 100 crore rupees is needed, but the company who is applying has only 80 crore rupees with itself. So the gap is 20 crore rupees. So in order to make that project viable, that 20 crore funding is done, and then the project becomes viable. That funding will come from the ministry. That is called as viability gap funding. The VGF amount will be finalized after considering specific needs, merits and feasibility of each project. The executing agency will be required to complete the pilot project within 2 years. So this is what it is. Now coming to the MCQs, there are 5 MCQs which we take into consideration every day. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. First is, monetary policy regulates the money supply in the economy. Very easy statement it is. And second is, the monetary policy committee is a 6-member body. You need to find out whether it is true or not. So how many of these statements are true? Which of the following correctly defines core inflation? Food and fuel inflation, overall inflation, non-food, non-fuel inflation, none of the above. It is again a simple, factual, direct question. Which of the following processes is involved in manufacturing green hydrogen? Then you need to undertake this, direct question it is. Fourth is assertion reasoning question. This is a bit tricky question, but yes, you need to have such kind of tricky questions. Assertion is, green hydrogen is produced by electrolysis. Reasoning, electrolysis can be done by using non-renewable energy. Both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. Both A and R are correct, and R is not the correct explanation of A. A is true, R is false. A is false, R is true. So you need to find out this. Then last is, which of the following are likely outcomes of the National Green Hydrogen Mission? There are 3 outcomes. First is reducing fuel import. Second is increasing production capacity of renewable energy by 125 gigawatts and reducing 50 million metric tons of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. So out of these 3 statements, you have to assess that which one of them are correct. Now with this, we come to an end of today's session. I will be meeting you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do, not repeating it today. Namaste, Jai Hind.